And now, it's Coast View with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such an amazing place to live, work, and play. Hey, I want to bring Kyle into the conversation for just a second. And first of all, say to my partner in crime, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. You're starting to settle down, get back into the routine. I know it's been a rough last couple of days.
Yeah, a little bit. Get back to normal stuff today. Yeah. Got a little bit more rest last night. Still feel like I could use another week.
Me too. I was telling our next guest, we'll get to the mayor of Pascagoula, Jimmy Rafferty, in just a second, but I was telling him that I went, I tracked my sleep. So I had 4 hours in 3 days. And then in the 2 or 3 days leading up to that, I had about 4 to 6 a night. I know that describes what you had as well, but it's a reminder. We have the capacity to perform under tough situations, don't we?
We really do. And of course, what makes it worse is that these iPhones that have these alarms that go off. Okay, flash flood warning. You know, you've just gotten to sleep for a few minutes and then all of a sudden the alarm goes off. So
it is. Hey, so Kyle, real quick, let me ask you one other quick question before we go back to Jimmy. I was, you and I have had a lot of talks offline about my granddaughter Mila, and somebody posted something on Facebook the other day. Her name is Angela Dowdy, an old friend of mine. She said, "We travel not to escape life, but for life not to escape us." And so, I thought about, this story is really not about travel, but I had the opportunity to take Mila over to Ocean Adventures yesterday and give her the chance to touch some stingrays and, sea porpoises and whatever. Man, we're so lucky to have that in the aquarium here in coastal Mississippi. But man, I tell you, every second I spend with Mila now it's just cherished time. I know you know what I mean by that, but it is cherished time.
It really is. You pretty much, I guess the older you get, the more you know, and you learn to take advantages of those opportunities and not let so much work and things that you think you have to do get in the way of things that you should be doing.
I know. Well, Jimmy, you can come in on it, and Kyle, you can listen in, and you can certainly add if you want to this. But Jimmy, one of the things that Kyle and I were talking about, and then my wife Ann and I did as well the last few days, is it's amazing how we sort of going through our life, and then here comes the possibility of a hurricane that might hit us. And it's like life just gets frozen in the moment. And we go on into our sort of hurricane mindset. And then it's all about protecting the things that are cherished, that we cherish, like our family and our friends and our homes. And in your case, a city. So I bet it was different for you as mayor to look out and see this Category 4 storm out there. I mean, the path was pretty clear, but we never know. Like we didn't know for Hurricane Katrina. We never know till it passes us south. It changes your perception, your perspective on what's cherished by you when you're the mayor of a city that's been ground zero so many times, doesn't it?
It does, and you really hit it, hammer on the nail. Is that it's so unpredictable. Because look, Hurricane Camille is still the worst storm to ever hit the continental U.S. in wind velocity, but it didn't have the tidal surge like Katrina. So you never know what kind of storm it will be.
Yeah, and I was watching an analysis of Ida today, actually, and as it went across the marsh, they had what is called the brown water effect. We saw the same thing with Hurricane Katrina when it went across the Florida Everglades, but it didn't. It continued to get organized as it went over the marsh areas of South Louisiana. And so when it hit 100 miles away, it was still a major storm, 100 miles inland. Usually if you remember, the Hurricane Center said it was going to break down quickly, but it didn't break down quickly. That could have been us. As you and I discussed before the storm, I don't like to say we dodged a bullet. I had the safety commissioner, Sean Tyndall, on, and he says he's learned to say we dodged the brunt. And that's the best way to see it. But, man, we were lucky. We can certainly count our blessings today, can't we?
We certainly can.
So when you think about resiliency and you think about our capacity to deal with difficult situations, certainly you've had that experience in Pascagoula before. You bring that perspective into the mayor of Pascagoula. But what do you think about when you think about our capacity to kind of handle tough situations?
Well, I was in human resources my entire career, over 30 years, and it all comes down to people. And this is exemplified in the preparation for the storm. We had our public works and beautification, everywhere, picking up things, picnic tables and things, getting us prepared. The harbor master and one of these individuals, the plan was to have them from 7 to 10 in the morning. And yet a few of them, had to get to their family, and they agreed to stay on until 2 in the afternoon. That's what it's all about. And then also our harbor master, we came up with a mandatory evacuation of the harbor. And that was one of the best things, such that boats didn't end up in restaurants or on piers and so forth. So, that's just what it's all about. And then our first responders, we had our police and fire department go rescue a boat that broke down and crashed into a pier. Or the night of the storm, this one lady decided to drive through a flooded street and had to be rescued. That's what the resiliency is all about.
It is so amazing to watch people go beyond the call of duty. As publisher of the Sun Herald, I got a chance to see not only in the days leading up to the storm, but then after the storm, so many incredibly dedicated people that set their lives aside and just focus on what's best for the community. It makes you can understand that old phrase that says when the tough gets going, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And as mayor, it's cool to see so many dedicated people around you, isn't it?
It is, including one of our older persons, Victor Pickage in Ward 4. It's amazing. He was out with a pick cleaning drains in his ward, on his hands and knees. And it was amazing. So, you see that. Talk about lead by example.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I had Fofo Gillich and Billy Hughes, the mayor of Biloxi and Gulfport, on a couple of days ago at the same time, and we just kind of had a three-way conversation. It was terrific. They've been in those seats for a little bit of time, but so many of the mayors are new. I'll have on this show and the next couple of shows, the mayor of Pascagoula and the mayor of Ocean Springs, and of course you. And I've talked to the mayor of Waveland this week. But a lot of leaders in the communities that make up coastal Mississippi that are counting their blessings today. Any other thoughts about Hurricane Ida before we move to other things?
Well, I just think how quickly we got back. I mean, and also the support we've gotten. I got a call from Richard Bennett, Mike Thompson, our representatives and senators and so forth. And yesterday, Philip Gunn was here. Speaker of the House from Mississippi, and so was Richard Bennett here. And they came by the harbor. We went to one of our restaurants, which is actually out over the water, called Shaggy's. And they were up and they were entertaining us, as we were out talking about everything and so forth. And early in the day, I had dined at Bacchus, which is right on the beach. The day after the storm, they were up and running. So you talk about resiliency. That's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about. It's great to hear that Richard Bennett, the representative from that area, and of course the Speaker of the House, was already on the ground here, seeing how they could help. That's awesome to hear. And the Nico family and their restaurant chains and their multiple restaurants here along coastal Mississippi. It's great to see them in their dedication to Pascagoula. That is for sure. So anyway, let's shift gears. You've been in the seat for a relatively short period of time. Thank goodness you didn't have to deal with it this storm, and hopefully we won't have another storm behind it at some point. But how does it feel? Do you have to kind of scratch yourself every now and then and remind yourself that you're actually the mayor of the city that you're so passionate about?
That's exactly what I've done on a few occasions, and it's amazing. But here again, it's all about people and how you can help people, and that's what it's all about. It's just a great example. The other day, all of a sudden I was just walking out and I saw this couple walking in, and I said, "How you doing?" And I went out and saw their car. They had an LSU Tiger sticker. I said, "I'm a Tiger," and they said, "Well, so's our daughter." And it just so happens their daughter is now a first lieutenant in the Air Force, and she had gone through the Boys and Girls Club and played a big role, which really has touched so many young people in this town. So the next night they had a big fundraiser, and at the yacht club. So I invited her there. She ended up being the keynote speaker. This was a young lady born and raised in Pascagoula, went through the Boys and Girls Club. They meant so much to her. She later became a volunteer there, and now she's a first lieutenant in the Air Force. So that's what it's all about. That's what, just in having her articulate her story and so forth. It was just so impactful.
Yeah, I'm assuming you know knew Lucy Marion Roberts.
That's right.
Yeah, she was a very, very close friend of mine. And she served. I was the chairman of the Knight Foundation here in Coastal Mississippi, and she served on my board for a number of years. And she was just my dear friend. But you think about famous Pascagoula residents who went on to do amazing things. But her daughter Robin Roberts,
that's right,
her dedication to Pascagoula after Hurricane Katrina, man, that was something to behold, wasn't it?
That's right. It was. And her husband was a Tuskegee Airman, so it was service that they provided.
Unbelievable history. Just so much history here in Coastal Mississippi. Hey, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with the mayor of Pascagoula, Jimmy Rafferty. I should point out, actually, that he had a bunch of years, over 30 years, working in the pharmaceutical industry with companies like Novartis and Pfizer. Pfizer, pretty popular name these days because of the vaccine. I want to talk to him about that and then other goals he's got for the city of Pascagoula. We'll continue the conversation after this break.
Coast View on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here at I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport or on allentoyota.com.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visit.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coach U as we are having a conversation with Jimmy Rafferty, the mayor of the city of Pascagoula. And in this segment, I want to get into some of the goals he had, what maybe some of the surprises were. Later, we'll talk a little bit more about the vaccine and the COVID situation. But hey, before we go any further, you and I, when we first visited, we talked about your grandfather as a former mayor of Pascagoula. Your family has a rich history of involvement, and your brothers are big advisors for you today. Why don't you remind people what those connections are?
Well, my grandfather was mayor here back in 1936. My father was the superintendent of utilities. I have one brother, Robin, who's a former alderman, and another brother, Donald, who's a former city judge. So, I've just gotten, and also this is my first, my first venture into politics. I had a career in human resources. And so, everything I've done now, I'm learning. And they've been great advisors, as had just people here in Pascagoula. It's amazing. Some people who I had never met before, you meet them, then all of a sudden they become a big, supporter of you. It's just so inspiring.
Well, I've often said on this show, and I don't mean this about every single politician who may not have come from this big career into politics, but I often used to say at the Sun Herald that when a politician sees getting elected as a promotion in life, you got to be a little bit cautious around those. We're gifted, though. If you think about this, if you were gifted in coastal Mississippi, first of all, we have a lot of, I would say, and people like Billy Hughes and Fofo Gillich, mayors that have had incredibly successful careers that have also dedicated themselves to public service. And then we have a bunch of new mayors. If you think about yourself, having had this big career long before you decided to run, you ran as a community service more than anything. Jay Willis in Pascagoula, of course, Kenny Holloway in Ocean Springs, and there are others. But we're lucky to have such a great group of mayors all along coastal Mississippi today that are really focused on giving back to the community. So, coming back to you, Jimmy, tell me more about. Well, let's start with this. What's your biggest surprise so far? I mean, if you say, "Wow, that was really interesting. I didn't expect that." Well, are there moments like that?
Well, no, of course, it's a big learning experience. You have public works and things like that. You have the sewage and water department. We have the harbor here, and it's also, cities, exist on a lot of funding, outside funding. And that's another thing, just getting my arms around it. We've gotten a number of grants, BP, Tidelands, things like that, Gulf Coast Restoration Fund, the COVID Relief Fund. So it's getting my arms around those and making sure that we're doing everything within our power to be able to get those types of grants. But I tell you, another thing which has been unbelievable is getting to know the other mayors on the coast. I refer to it as one coast. And, Billy Hughes and Fofo, I've gotten to know them. We're all sitting on the Harrison County Utility Authority, and they've just welcomed me with open arms. And George Bass from Long Beach. It's really an unbelievable group, and they all know that I'm the new kid on the block, and they've just been very, very helpful and outgoing, really just sharing their experiences with me. I'm very blessed in that regard.
That is so cool to see. You had a lot of big goals. You had goals and making the government, fiscally responsible. I think that's why all these funds that are out there that may be available for the city, why you'd want to work so hard there. Business development and economic development were big for you, sports programs, and just kind of furthering that goal. But when you hit the ground, what's the number one thing that you wanted to make sure you focused on immediately?
Well, it was really throughout my campaign. One thing that kept hitting me was the amount that people were paid here in town. And, we are the smallest town on the coast. So understandably, you're not going to pay your people like Biloxi or Gulfport, so forth. However, I have a lot of experience in compensation. I manage the compensation department at 4 different companies. So that's one of the things I took a very close look at. We want to pay our people proportionately and competitively. So I spent a lot of time, worked very closely with our board of alderpersons, and we finally got our budget approved, and we're going to make great strides towards investing in our people. And I think that's the number one, that's been my number one thing that I've been focused on. And I've just gotten great support from our board, and we're going to move forward and be able to, because the first thing we want to do, as with talent these days, it's so scarce. And being the smallest town, a number of our employees, city employees, only a fraction of them actually live in Pascagoula. So, right off the bat, we're already at a disadvantage. So right now, working together with the board, we're coming together with a strategy to be able to incent our people to stay to begin with. Secondly, motivate them. And thirdly, incent them to higher levels of performance.
Well, Jimmy, I think that's so important. And as a former CEO, I want to add a little bit to what you just said. When people think about HR, they think about administration. They think about administering, employees coming in and out, and the personnel files, et cetera. But the world that you came from was HR as a strategic partner, and that's really that's more the evolving nature of HR in companies, especially global companies. It's about what are the skill sets that are necessary. What is the pay that's necessary, and developing grades of those pays so that we're constantly doing market assessment to see that we're being competitive and that we understand what the competencies of each of these jobs are, so that when we launch our strategic capabilities, that we have the manpower and the resources and the skill sets and the competencies inside our company. But even more important, actually, is the culture, and making sure that the culture supports the strategic management. That's the world you came from, isn't it, Jimmy?
Yeah, it is. And what really made me feel so good, just yesterday, I was out with one of the lowest paid workers at the harbor, cleaning up. And he said, Jimmy, I hear you're doing good things. So, but it's not just me, partnering with the board of alderpersons, we're really going to make investments in our people. And I think that's the important thing. And then in so doing, we're going to keep them, because, you look at the police force right now, it costs over $33,000 a year to train a policeman. That 15 grand or something at the academy, then you have to have them shadow a police officer for 6 months.
Jimmy, you did a career in pharmaceuticals, like I mentioned, and one of the companies you work for is Pfizer. And that RNA technology that they use is really incredibly important technology. And they're not doing genetic recoding. They're not injecting microchips in your body. This is very safe. What do you have to say about it?
Well, I'm a firm believer